Right, everyone, we are recording. Obviously, it's Dave here from The Imperfect Individual, and I have a special guest today, a very special guest, Rob Sewell, who's a good friend of mine, and he's very kindly agreed to have a chat with me with regard to the subject of introspection. You know, as you guys know, I do have a playlist called Introspection, and I do see it as a very, very kind of like integral strand to what the channel's all about, what's remaining introspective and reflecting. So Rob has taught me a lot about the value of identifying values, the value of introspection and self-reflection. So Rob, great to have you on board, and thanks for agreeing to have a chat.
That's good. It's good to speak again, David.
Nice one. So I just thought, Rob, would you mind telling your story? Because it is a very, very impactful story, and you know, it does seem to me that the concept of introspection is very central to your experience in the last few years. I was wondering whether you could just tell your story in your own words.
Yeah, how long do you want me to go with this?
It's up to you, Rob. It's up to you.
So about just over 4 years ago, I was in a very difficult place in my life, very, very unwell, struggled with anxiety throughout my life. I definitely had untreated depression, and I descended into the madness of alcoholism and drug addiction. And I started to get help for that 4 years ago, and you know, I'm clean and sober today, which is great. And you know, I work a 12-step program, and I've been doing that for a while. And I'm lucky enough now to be doing something that I love, and also, you know, helping other people recover from their addictions as well in my spare time. But so for me, you know, I had a 20-year career. I was a scientist for 10 years, incredibly materially focused, not only in my way of thinking of, you know, being a scientist, and but also in terms of pursuing, you know, material goods and material things, and looking outside of myself to solve my problems and make myself feel better and manage my emotions. Then I went into sales and marketing within that industry for 10 years as well. And you know, from a child, I'd always wanted to be, you know, in some sort of service to people. I had that kind of feeling. My parents worked in the public sector. My father was a policeman in South Yorkshire, my mother a nurse, you know, and they both worked in those professions all their life. And you know, good, honest, hardworking people, good work ethic, which they taught me. And but you know, and I saw that they were in service. You know, they were in service to the people, you know, of this country. And so for me, I went into science. I thought that was some kind of service. And I guess it is, you know, it's kind of in line with the medical profession. I did want to be a doctor when I was younger, but I found out that I was squeamish, so I couldn't do that. I wanted to be a brain surgeon, but unfortunately I couldn't really go ahead and do that. But yeah, so, you know, I went into science, and I thought that was some kind of service, and I guess, as I say, it was. But actually what I found was it was a lot of people with massive egos, and actually people were just more interested about themselves, their research projects, you know, and inevitably, you know, it's a cutthroat business. You have to, you know, you have to produce research, you have to get it published, and then, because you need to get funding, you know, it's a continuous round of trying to get funding and so on. So yeah, I just found that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
There wasn't that altruistic element to it.
No, not at all. And to be honest with you, but yeah, I'd lost track of that anyway. You know, I was too interested in myself. Here's the thing as well, you know, a lot of people there were very, very, very clever people. You know, I'm working with people from Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard and all, you know, all the best places in the world. I work for Cancer Research UK. You know, it's the biggest cancer research institute outside of the States. And you know, and I'm, you know, okay, I've got fair intellect. I'm just this kid from Sheffield that likes going out on the weekends and, you know, getting up to mischief with his friends, you know, and, you know, all my friends, I lived in London then, my friends all worked in the media and stuff like that, you know, I was out partying and stuff like that. But here's the thing, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Or that's not true. That's what I thought I wanted to do. I liked science as a kid. I wanted to be a scientist. That's kind of what I got into, but there was no real purpose to it. There was no real direction. There wasn't a bigger picture really. And my heart just wasn't in it. I was just going there day by day, doing what I had to do. You know, it's like if you're a musician or if you're a chef, you know, and you're the best in the business, you know, you're in a top rock and roll band or you're a Gordon Ramsay or something like that, you know, you have a real passion. It's not just a job. It's you're a wizard on the guitar or in the kitchen or whatever like that. And actually scientists are like that as well. You know, it's a real gift and they're obsessed with it. And this just wasn't, this wasn't how I was. And I became very disillusioned. And, you know, I started stuff with anxiety at this point, and life wasn't manageable for me. And, you know, and I started to really struggle with alcohol in my sort of later 20s. And then, you know, one day I woke up on the floor with a bottle in my hand, and, you know, I got a son. It was about 18 months, and I was looking after him on my own. You know, me and his mother had split up, and I just sat one day and I said, right, I'm going to sort my life out. And I needed more flexible working hours. I needed more money. I needed a car. And I got all these things by getting a job. You know, I went into sales and marketing and I got all of these things, and but that's not what I needed. I didn't need that. I realized that now. I didn't need that. I didn't need more money. I didn't need a car. I needed a purpose. And I went into that job, and for a couple of years, it was great. You know, it was new and it's exciting. And I was earning a lot of money, and I was able to get out of London in a car, you know, and go to the countryside and the beach and stuff. But and I met someone and I got married. You know, my wife, who I'm still married to now, all these years later. But you know, after a couple of years, it just started to go downhill, and I really started to descend into serious alcoholism and addiction, eventually to cocaine and crack cocaine, and you know, to a point where I can't work anymore. I've lost work. I'm unemployable, and I'm just sat in a room on my own, drinking and using drugs, and just lost with no way out, and no purpose anymore in my life. You know, the world was as wide as my life was thin. It was just nothing. And you know, and then so started my recovery. And you know, without the haze of drugs and alcohol, without work, you know, it's literally I'm starting from scratch again. And what a blessing that was. You know, to have a blank canvas. And but then for me, you know, when I start to get help from people, and so Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, these anonymous fellowships that I'm a part of, you know, I started working a 12-step program. That's worked for me. It's worked for countless other people, and this was a process where I had to do a huge amount of self-reflection and introspection, and you know, looking at myself very, very deeply and on a daily basis, looking at that,
yeah,
and removing what has caused me pain, and the kind of activities that pull me down. So that's kind of in a nutshell what's happened to me, you know, in those first 43 years of life. I don't know if you want to sort of ask any questions about what's happened since then in the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Because what I was going to say was, you know, your story is incredible. You know how you got to that point where, what was it? What would you say, or would you say that real deep introspection can only arise through, like kind of when inner turmoil is to such extremes? Because, you know, it seems that, I know you're going to go on to this now, that the clarity you've gained, at least is in part due to the intense suffering that you experienced. Is that part of the human condition, you know, or is that just does that apply to a particular type of person? It's just, I find the whole concept of, the only reason I'm asking you this is because I also have it in my life as well, is that in the last couple of years, 2020 for me was the most difficult year of my life. Yeah, it was also the year whereby I genuinely did find and start to pursue real purpose. Now, is that a coincidence? I think not. I'm interested in getting your thoughts on that, and also what you've gone on to do and what you now.
Well, so it's interesting, isn't it? Like, addiction is just one thing, you know. It could be a serious health scare. Maybe you've had cancer or a heart attack, or, you know, you get divorced after being married for a long time, bereavement, you know, all of these kind of, or, you know, maybe if you're, you know, a mother who's, you know, spent a lot of time and investment raising children, now they've left home, whatever it is, you know, we go through something and we kind of realize, is this what life is all about? Or what is life about? What is it? You know, sometimes we just focused on something, whatever it is. Maybe we're chasing something to achieve something, or we've been focusing on the negative, which we'll do if we've been through all of these experiences. You just focused on the negative, and then you just realize, well, you know, what am I doing? And I think it's in those times where you start to question what you actually value in life. What is actually important to you? You know, what is important to you? Yeah. And you often see people, you know, go on and do great things, you know, following some kind of adversity, or certainly change their life. It's, you know, so many people change tack, and that's exactly, you know, what happened to me. And I don't want to work in the corporate world anymore. You know, I now run my own business, and you know, I do a couple of things. I've done life coaching, I still do a bit, and help people to grow businesses now. But I think, I think in adversity or suffering, we start to find more value and meaning in life. But have you noticed that it's never becomes, once you've been through something difficult, it never becomes a change or a change in tack in life that's going towards just taking and getting something for yourself. It usually becomes around being of service in some kind of capacity, being more altruistic.
It's giving more of yourself, isn't it?
Giving more of yourself. Where, you know, you hear it time and time again, you know, if you give it away, you get it back, and you do. And my experience, especially as an addict, it's like, I'm always trying to take from life, and I'm always trying to get something, you know, achievement. You know, I might have been an addict, but I have a 20-year career and I've achieved a lot, you know, and that's part of the problem of this very strong will that I want something. I'm always chasing something, but it's like having a bucket of water and you're filling it up, but it's got a hole in the bottom, and you can never fill it up. And there's always, even when you get everything, there's still a gap, there's something missing. And what I've found is that now I'm more in service mindset, and a way of giving is that hole has been plugged, but the water's still coming in, you know, cup is runneth over, if you like. You know, just life is full. Life is full because I you know, I want to do something more for others. And for me, that, you know, it comes through a particular filter, and those are our values.
I was going to ask you about values, actually, Rob, but one word that springs to mind here then, that seems to encapsulate everything that you've talked about so far, is perspective and perception. And I find perception and how that relates to truth a fascinating subject, because what is perspective, what is perception? Clearly your perception on your life, who you are, what this world is, has shifted massively within those last few years. I'm just wondering why is that? Why did your perception change, and how important is it for individuals when stuck in a rut, when I don't know, when struggling, when in a tumult, whatever it is, to be able to have those powers of looking at things from a different perspective, especially looking at ourselves from a different perspective. I mean, it's very, very complex, this, but what's your take on that?
So, I mean, again, it's where, especially if you've been through a tough time, there's no surprise that we look to change, because we only suffer because we're attached to stuff, and we're focusing on how it affects us.
Yeah.
And it's only when you can actually you actually realize that when you can start to let go of that, when you can have a different way of looking at things, that things will actually change. I mean, like, just for example, I can say, and I can say it with a smile on my face, not because it's funny or anything. I just see the absurdity of it now. I used to hate my wife, like, with a passion when I was in addiction. And everything was her fault, and she was this way and she was that way. And I can say the word hate. I mean, literally hated her. Today I look at my wife, bless her, that she's still with me, and with such love and compassion for this amazing person that she is. Nothing has changed within her, not one single thing. She's exactly the same way and exactly the same person. The only things that's changed is my perception. Yeah, and I can, and for every single person and every single place and thing, I can say that things have changed, and it's all just from looking through a different filter. And what I came to understand was, I mean, it's not, and not everyone's life is going to be as crazy as that. Let's say in addiction, where you're so self-centered and self-seeking and self-pity, self being the word. So it's all, everything's attacking me, everything's affecting me. And for me, real deep introspection was all about looking at, how am I serving myself? How am I trying to protect myself and my ego? I've got an identity as being this kind of person or whatever it is. What does that actually really mean? And I realize it's all causing me suffering. It's leading me to be resentful and extremely, which really is driven by fear. I'm so fearful of so many different things. This is causing me to act in certain ways. And actually what I truly value. So, I know all of my values and what they mean, but no, so the top values for me will be honesty, understanding, service is one as well. But I'm completely and utterly out of alignment from what I truly value. And this causes me a lot of suffering. This makes me feel angry or scared or just useless or whatever, just seeing the world in a bad way. I don't see the world in a bad way anymore, because I've looked at these things. And now, so I understand that honesty is extremely important to me, especially self-honesty, simply because I've been so dishonest in the past. You're looking at the world's most dishonest person, in its first 40 odd years of life. And I can't do that anymore, because it doesn't make me feel right. It really damages me.
I think that's the absolute raw honesty. I know you just said there, honesty is one of your top values, and that really, really does come through whenever I speak to you. Certainly here, I mean, the story you just told about how you used to view your wife and how you view her now, and it just screams of real, authentic honesty. One of the things that I wanted to, and I'm going to come back to values in a minute, but a lot of people at the moment are living in this fear. A lot of people are, in my opinion, possibly paying too much attention to things that are going on outside, and possibly they're allowing external events to too much of a degree to impact on their own well-being in this moment now. Now, you talked before about the selfishness that you can associate with addiction. I think you can also associate it with many other different states of mind as well. You're either trying to add to a situation or to take away from a situation, and maybe that means that we're not then living in the present. I wanted to ask you, what would your advice or thoughts, or what's your opinion on the situation at the moment where so many are kind of beholden to external events? It is a very turbulent external world at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty. What can people do to try and engender as much sense of peace within themselves? Because I'm guessing, you know, it does relate to introspection and self-reflection and spirituality and selflessness, and does that also, as I've found, is that aided by giving more of yourself, which I am now starting to try to do myself, and it does help. Just interested in your views on all of that.
So I guess you're talking about COVID, are you?
Well, yeah,
but like, I mean, because I mean, still, even as someone who doesn't watch the news, and I don't even get out much because I work from home, and you know, my life is either working in my business or you know, in meetings of recovery and things like that. So I'm not one to watch the news, and I haven't for a while. But you can't get away from it. So there does seem to be a lot of anger and polarization. It is a crazy situation, I guess. I mean, it hasn't affected me, and neither has lockdown or anything like that, because I work from home anyway. So, you know, I've not been greatly affected by it. So, but there seems to be, like, let's just give it as an example, you know, vaccinated or not vaccinated, for instance, and there seems to be a huge amount of stuff around that I see sometimes when I'm scrolling through Facebook, and you know, whichever standpoint you have, both of them are, you can see the selfishness in it, because it's either you want to have a vaccine because you want to protect yourself because you don't want to die, or you don't want to have a vaccine because you want to protect your rights. Well, yeah, again, it's you, self. But you both, one is trying to protect actual physical life, one is just trying to protect the ego. So what's the difference? Everyone's got their own opinion, so let everybody stick to their own opinion, and that's okay. I mean, it could get very deep, couldn't it? I literally just don't have an opinion on it, to be honest with you. All that I can do is just get on with what I'm doing in the best capacity that I can. And I'm very accepting of what is. But then again, you know, some people could look at me and say, well, you know, you need to stand up and do something, or whatever it is. It's fair enough. That's a valid argument as well. Everything's valid. Where's the truth?
Well, that's it. That's
where's the truth? And it's but not just in that, in anything. You know, really, what is life but just the lots of different perspectives? You know, where really is the truth? And you know, everyone can say, well, yeah, but this is true and that is true. How is it? It's just your belief system. But don't believe what I'm saying either, because it's just what I'm thinking and what I'm believing. It's just a perspective. Where is the truth? So, but again, you know, we can introspect and we can say, well, maybe I've got to respect someone's opinion.
I think it's interesting that the whole concept of the truth, for me, the truth, it doesn't exist. For me, it's about personal truth, which is again, which is around, and the truth doesn't exist because, as you say, there are 8 billion people on this planet, and there's 8 billion different perspectives. But But personal truth, I think, is something that does exist, that we can value, that we can imbue our lives with. But what would you say that is that for people who are, if we want, if a healthy, I'm just going to go off on a little tangent here, talk about society a little bit. A society is made up of individuals who are introspective, who are humble, who are self-reflective, who are seeking to identify values and to live through values. Is now an opportunity for people to accelerate that process? Because, you've told your story, I've told my story about how, in your 20s and 30s, you struggled with addiction, etc. I've struggled as well, but 2020 was the nadir for me, where I was in a really bad place, yet it drove me. It made me dig so deep into myself to really start identifying values and to pick certain values that I can look in the mirror and say, those values I really, really have lived in alignment with, and they've involved me, providing service to other people as well. So is this an opportunity is now the best time for people to, or almost easier to cultivate a purpose right now than at any other time?
I would say absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But there is only now, isn't there? There's no time like now. There's no time like the present. You just do it. Just go for it if you're in that space. Well, there's two ways of looking at it, isn't there? You can go, well, no, everything's so crap. Let's just focus on that and get more angry and more fearful,
exactly.
And just be reactive. Which again, you're just protecting yourself.
Yeah,
you're just protecting yourself, and you're being incredibly selfish. And I don't mean selfish in a way that you're bad. You're not bad for being selfish. It's just unconscious human behavior. We're all selfish about things. We all try and protect our identity and our viewpoint. If you're getting fed up with that, if you are suffering too much from it and you're getting too angry, and the telltale signs for me is when you're pointing the finger and you're blaming everybody else. That to me, whenever I'm blaming someone else, that to me presents me with an opportunity to have a look at myself and say, do you know what, can I change something here? Again, it just comes back to what can I do to be more helpful, more aligned with my values. And if you look at good core values, honesty, service, understanding is one for me, helping people to understand things and understand things myself. Responsibility, respect, they're not bad things, are they? They're all things that are within us, which are really good natured, and they're our true nature. Our true nature isn't to hate. That's not from deep down. That's just the protecting the ego sort of standpoint, or wanting, if our values are getting rich and wanting money and stuff like that. It's all very superficial stuff. All the proper core values, and it all comes down to love and things like that. They're all good things, and they're all things that if we find them and we live through them, then we're going to present a better society to people, whatever we do. So yeah, it's never a better time. The best time is when you're in a corner. The best time is when you're shouting at someone and pointing a finger at someone.
Yeah,
that's the time to say, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
And it's just really making me feel good. It might feel good when you're actually giving somebody something and shouting them, but have you ever, once you've done that, there's that feeling that there's some shame and guilt in it, and that's pointing towards something.
It is.
When I've really let it rip at someone, I never feel good afterwards. I'm full of you can be full of venom, and it's only destroying you.
Yeah,
this is never going to get us anywhere. So yeah, I think if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling fearful, that's pretty much all it comes down to, in my experience. That's the time to start looking at yourself. And that's the most difficult thing, because then we don't want to look at ourselves.
Because
I'm right.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's that's a difficult thing, and it's a difficult to crack through that, and really start to find value and wanting to bring that out to the world in a good way, because it can look weak as well. It can feel weak, but actually it's incredibly powerful, and it makes us more connected. I think in difficult times as well, and through fear, it separates us as well. You're just consumed within yourself. It's just not helpful to anyone, least of all yourself.
On Rob, what's the difference? What's the difference between intelligence?
Dave, your sound has gone there.
Oh, has it?
It's back now. It's back.
Is it back? Are we okay?
Yeah, it was muffled for a minute. It's okay.
Okay. So here's a question for you. What is the difference between intelligence and emotional intelligence?
Well, I think intelligence, I guess, it's something it's already learned, it's already imprinted, it's already part of your makeup. You can add to it, of course. We can always become more intelligent and know more. It's all concept. It's all a concept. It's beliefs, ideas, they're just concepts. What are beliefs but a bunch of thoughts that you put together and say, right, okay, that's my identity, that's my way of thinking, so I'm going with that. And then we'll explore on further from that, and we'll explore more different avenues, and there's some intelligence there. Emotional intelligence, to me, I guess the word coming to me is just intuition. And it's taking a step back. It's a deeper intelligence, maybe. But here's the thing: you can't use that or be in touch with that from a position of fear, from a position of anger. It's not possible.
Completely agree.
It's not possible. So yeah, emotional intelligence is something different. Using the heart more than the head.
Yeah. So
there's more of a wisdom in it, I guess.
There's a true knowing, isn't there? I think with because I think this is the thing, and this is what I'm really on this path myself, to dissociate, obviously not completely dissociate from my mind, but to start to relate more to what my heart's telling me, because I think with you can offer logic, rationality, facts, evidence, and you can make a case. All of that you can do with the brain, but that isn't necessarily what's real. It's not necessarily what's true. It's not the true knowing, I think, and you use the word intuition. I actually do think that the world now, there is a real kind of reconnection with a lot of people to what it is to be intuitive, which is to trust, I think, which is to seek inspiration from nature, and to know, you use the word on a deep level there, to know that what there is, the true knowing, to live or to act, to do what it is that we know to be right, comes from our heart, not from our head. I think maybe as Western societies, we've lost sight of that, or maybe never had it. But I do believe, because I see it in myself, I see it in other people, that intuitive approach to life, which is, I don't know, an acknowledgement of some people might call it God, some might call it the law of attraction, some might call it spirituality, whatever it is, some kind of higher power. That is the intuition. That's the true knowing, isn't it? And I think that is the emotional intelligence, because you used the example before of the scientists. And to me, when you told that story, I thought, intelligent guys, maybe, with their selfishness and their narrow-mindedness, maybe possibly within not displaying emotional intelligence, I don't know. And I know that's been me as well in the past. So does that, what I've said there, do you relate to any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not using emotional intelligence, and you're not using any kind of intuition, you're not, coming into a heart-centered space, you're not having any compassion or just seeing a bigger picture, It, you know, if we're not doing that, then it's all about self-bias. How can I manipulate this situation? How can I keep hold of my identity? How can I keep hold of my belief system and impose that onto people? Whereas, yeah, for me, you know, I work a spiritual 12-step program of recovery. So yeah, I've found my understanding of my illness of addiction is that, and my experiences, there's nothing that I can do about it. At certain times, I have no control over picking up a first drink or drug. It's impossible. And I've repeated the experiment over and over again, you know, in relapsing before I got well. So I can't do it. I've found a deeper connection. And it's completely changed my psyche. Mm-hmm. This is the thing. But this, you know, how can I explain that? I can't.
Yeah, it's tapping into an essence that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Have you kind of like discovered a deep essence? That is, use the word identity. I've just got a couple more questions to ask you. And beliefs, identity and beliefs, you know, they can unite or divide. In what way would you say, do you identify as a particular person with a particular set of beliefs, or do you not at all? Is identity, how can we turn the concept of identity into something that is positive for ourselves and for the world around us? Or do we need to completely get away from all things identity?
Well, I mean, you know, each their own. My understanding is that the less identity that you have, the easier your life becomes, the more productive you are, and the more
open-minded.
The more open-minded you are, but the more you are able to give back. Mm-hmm. The stronger you hold on to a particular identity, you know, for me, life becomes a lot more difficult. Mm-hmm. You say, so for instance, you know, I wouldn't identify, you know, I try not to identify as a man. That's a little bit difficult. I definitely don't have a nationality. That's just not in my makeup anymore. I don't identify with that. I've even almost let go of my football team and identity in football. But yeah,
for your Wednesday, isn't it? You said
well,
almost. You said almost.
Probably a good reason for that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the less identity, the better for me. You know, political party stuff like that. It's just gone. So, and all of these things, you know, or identifying with your city and all this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. For me, it just all causes more problem. You know, I mean, then again, there's an argument for if people aren't identified. So, for instance, if you didn't identify with being in a political party, you know, nothing would ever get done. So, you know, people, I guess there is a need for identity in some respects for stuff to get done. You know, if everyone was like me, nothing will, well, life wouldn't be like it is now, put it that way. But I think, yeah, in terms of personal identity, again, for me, it just comes down to values. Mm-hmm. And it comes down to what I call purpose. And purpose isn't something that I'm doing. It's a way of being. So my purpose in life is to be a guiding light, to show people to a space where they feel safe and understood, so they may find peace and balance throughout life's changes. And I remind myself of that all the time. Mm-hmm. I operate from that space. That's my identity, really. That's about as far as it goes. Mm-hmm. So, you know, am I helping? Safety means love in terms of a context of a group of people or family to me. So am I being sort of loving and generous and helping people to understand themselves and bringing them sort of like peace and balance and serenity in their life? So, you know, and I try to do that through the coaching work that I do and through the help of people in addiction. Mm-hmm. That's all that I do. Mm-hmm. But of course, I always also try and operate from that space with my family and friends and people like that.
Yeah, they're such powerful concepts, and peace, balance, and serenity. Yeah, you know, they really are. Rob, I've got one more
Like,
thing.
but just to add to that, if no one had identity, the world wouldn't be like it is today. It just simply wouldn't. You wouldn't have political parties. You wouldn't have anything like that. It'd be a completely different world.
I think maybe the balance is tipped to too much. I'm not saying I don't think identity is a good or a bad thing. It's a conformity is not a good or a bad thing. Obedience not a good or a bad thing. It's to what you are identifying with, to what you are conforming with. It's I guess it comes to, I know, is it your top value or one of your top values, that balance? Possibly we have, because I know that I have myself become too consumed by identity. I am this, you are that. And it's good to a degree, I think, to have a healthy identity, but to not place too much emphasis on it. And I guess to remember that really that we imprint ourselves on the world in the best way possible, not really by what we identify with or who we are, but how we present ourselves, which surely is the values that we live through, isn't it? So I think that relationship between identity and values is really, really, really important, and possibly one that, well, I didn't realize how important values were until I started speaking to you. I honestly didn't know. I'd heard people talking about values, but I just didn't even give it a second thought about values. What's that? Until I really started to understand. And now I can see some of my values, some of my top 10 values I look at. And, this is me being introspective. I give myself a mark of 2 or 3 out of 10 for some of them. The top ones at the moment, I feel like I am in alignment with, and this is useful to do because I can see really clearly what it is that I know, how I want to frame my life and who I want to be in this world. And I can see the aspects of that which I'm doing well and the ones that I'm not. Whereas if I didn't know what my values were, if you don't know what your values are, you're going to be confused, aren't you? You're going to be maybe, at risk of being dragged into, I don't know, an unhealthy political allegiance or a cult, I don't know, or something like that, and become more and more narrow-minded. So I think that having a set of values, you become very conscious of the, I'm very circumspect with regard to not identifying too closely with particular movements or particular idea or particular beliefs. So values is so incredibly important, I think. And I didn't know that until, I started speaking to you.
Yes, yeah, and it's like a rudder on a boat, or if you're thinking about a train, the tracks are like values. For me, it gives you some kind of alignment. It just, you talked about, maybe you could end up, joining some sort of cult or something like that, but also it makes you happy. Yeah. It actually makes you feel happy and satisfied and peaceful, when you're actually operating from what you actually truly value. If you're doing things that are out of alignment with what you truly value, that's when I feel unwell. I feel unwell, I feel depressed, I feel down, I might feel angry or fearful, I just don't feel right. I didn't realize that's why I felt so completely out of sorts for quite some time. And it's an amazing process to go through, and those values we actually find from our experiences, particularly in childhood. When you go back and analyze them, like we've done, David, you start to actually so you look at all these experiences that you've had in the past, and even if they're good or bad, you actually find that they really mean the same thing. That they're attached to these kind of things that we really value. So if we're living in alignment with that, then we feel good, we operate good, we work well. And we're better human beings.
Absolutely.
And there's a ripple effect. It passes on. If you're nasty to somebody, then that person's going to be nasty to someone else. That's how it works.
I agree. I totally agree.
If you're caring and loving and compassionate towards people, someone else will do that to someone else. It's just how it works.
Absolutely agree with
and it all starts with you.
that.
All starts with you. That's what real introspection has done for me. And like you say, even if you've got a stronger identity perhaps than I have, the reason why I want to really break mine down is just, because I've got such a debilitating illness of addiction. I have to literally remove any remnants of what Rob was. But even if you've got a fairly strong identity, if you've got good values going through that, then that's a good, because actually that's when you can go out and actually make a real good impact and maybe changing things and getting things done. But as long as it's done from a good place, not just from here.
Mm-hmm. It takes, would you agree that it takes a lot of courage? Because you said there about getting rid of the old Rob, and it was the same for me. I've not completely burnt away everything that I once was, far from it. But in that quest towards personal truth and towards authenticity and towards taking responsibility, I do feel that it's like cutting off the dead bits of a flower, isn't it? Or the dead bits of a plant. You have to burn away the bits that you have to burn away, and that is a painful process, isn't it? I think maybe possibly the reason why people may be scared possibly to really look really deeply, maybe why I was, is because there is a knowledge that it's going to be in the short to medium term painful. You may risk emotions getting worse before they improve. That kind of inner turmoil that is required in order to dig out what your personal truth is. Do you think that's what I've experienced? It is, isn't it?
The biggest, if we just talk about self-development, as a broad term, looking to change yourself in whatever way it is, that could be losing weight, it could be completely changing your mindset, it could be, it could be anything, anger management, whatever it is, or, maybe
quitting your job. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage, because at the end of the day, what are you doing? You're challenging your whole identity, mm-hmm. and your ego. You're challenging it, and it holds on for dear life. Mm-hmm. It holds on for dear life. We want to hold our position. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to look at yourself. I had to look at myself and share with somebody absolutely everything that had gone on in my life. Through the part of the 12-step process, every single story, every resentment, every fear, every harm, every single thing, and all that they were interested in was pointing out, what is this affecting in me and what part have I played in it? And I had to vigorously look at myself, and it's very difficult to let go of these things. Like, I want to let me hold on to this resentment over here. I'll let all the others go. I've got to keep this one. I've got to keep it because that'll keep me.
Yeah.
And so even when you start, just doing a bit more introspective work, this chipping away at yourself is difficult, because mm-hmm. what you're doing, you're letting go of something.
Yeah.
If you go far enough, you can completely let go of everything.
Yeah.
But we change day by day.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the same person from day to day. We do slightly change, don't we? What is this? Yeah. What is this ego? What is it really? Is it real?
It's been a great chat.
I'm starting to see a bit of an illusion here.
Rob, where can I'm going to ask you one last question to finish up on, but before that, how can people contact you if they want to?
Yeah, the best place is just if you want to put the link to my Facebook.
Yeah.
profile.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to just say what it is that you do?
Yeah.
So
4 years ago, alcoholic, addict, started to get well. Then I started to train myself in digital marketing, because I wanted to start a business online. That's where we met, David, in a particular community. And I trained myself up. Then I started a business as a life coach, helping people find their purpose. And I still do a bit of that, but now also I help people grow life coaching businesses. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Okay, so I'll put a link to your Facebook then in the description to this
Sure.
video. Rob, thanks so much for the chat. It's been real. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. I'm sure my subscribers are going to enjoy listening to this. So, what should we finish up on? What one thing should anyone who's watching this today, or whenever they watch it, what one thing should they remember for the day, for the rest of the day? What one thing should we keep in mind to create a better them and a better world?
I guess it just comes down to, for me, if you really want to dramatically, if anyone's watching, they actually really do want to take the plunge and dramatically change their life, it's only going to come from a very deep analysis of yourself, finding truly what you value in life, and then going out and actually being of service to people in some respect, whatever that is. It's absolutely life-changing.
Yeah,
that's all I can say, especially if someone's really struggling, you know, with negative thought patterns, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's to go on a process of looking, find what you really truly want to do, and go for that.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure that's in a way that is a service to other people. How else are we going to create a better society?
That's a perfect way to finish, Rob. So I will thank you very much again. I'll stop the recording now. Thanks again, Rob.
You're welcome.
See you
Thanks
soon.
a lot.
Okay, stop now. There we go.